Good morning. For the first day in a long time. Don't feel like watching from the sidelines.
Welcome to the Core Conversations podcast by Ampelis, where our goal is to help you fuel, use, and rest your bodies in ways that unlock its innate abilities for physical and mental health. My name is Robbie Harmon, and I'll be your host. Okay, welcome to another episode of Core Conversations, where our goal is to help you fuel, use, and rest your bodies in ways that unlock its innate abilities for physical and mental health. We are lucky and fortunate to have Tanna Fox with us again today. Tanna is a rock star. She's been on with us before, so maybe you saw our last episode where Tanna helped us go deep on in the area of energy and metabolic health, and that was fun.
Fun.
Today and there's so many things that we could talk about. It's just like every time, what should we talk about? But today we felt like the conversation of the gut microbiome and like, what does that have to do with our mood and emotions?
Yeah.
And Tanna has just lots of insights and experience in this. So we're grateful that we can have a little bit of conversation. But some of the questions that we hope to explore is, how does the gut microbiome influence mental health and mood? Can changing what we eat really start to improve symptoms of anxiety and depression and emotion regulation, things that we're dealing with, and maybe get practical steps or, ideas for where can I start on this path? So
excited.
Just for people who maybe haven't seen the prior episodes, Tanna is an international sports certified nutritionist and owner of Live Right Nutrition, and somebody you can learn a lot about if you follow her on social media and other things, but she's doing wonderful things and just a joy to be around. She's helping us create content that's educating people, as well as physical products like Core 7 that we can talk about.
So fun.
So grateful that Tanna's here.
Oh, it's so exciting to be here. Thanks, Robbie.
And we're getting you on the heels of like 6 weeks of crazy, where
a lot of travel.
You've been in Israel for 2 weeks, right as things started to get crazy in Israel.
The bombs started flying,
And then in Brazil, leading a youth group for 3 weeks.
Yeah. I said 3 weeks. It was 19 days. So that when I came home a little early, it felt like exciting.
Yeah.
But it was so great. It was such a wonderful experience.
So we're lucky to get you, this little window as you get home. But I would love, first question as we dive into this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are traveling in the summer. And it's hard to maintain your routines when you're traveling. So I would just love to hear how you even, especially in other countries, how you try to maintain some kind of balance in your diet and nutrition.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. It's a question I get a lot, especially people that are, executives or have to travel a lot. And I was like, gosh, I need to be able to answer that, but also live it as well. So I do have to say, one of my best tips is to just make sure I'm really consistent with my supplements. That's the one thing that I miss my routines. I miss my morning workouts. I miss even sometimes my lemon, but I do believe that there are supplements with quality that help me to stay regular, right? They help me to get all the vitamins and minerals I need. And it was funny because even the last week kind of in Brazil, I started getting these leg cramps and I was like, what is happening? And I was like, oh, it's because I'm not eating my banana and my orange and my spinach every day. So I was like, my potassium must be a little bit low. But sure enough, I was like, oh, get back on your supplements and it starts to help. So that really does matter. I'm not as strict when I'm at home and eating really well, but when I travel, I have a little pill box and I load it up and I probably look like a weirdo swallowing like 8 to 10 things, right? Everyone's like, what? Do you not eat food? And I totally do. But that's probably one of my best tips for anyone that travels. Like, do not be afraid to supplement when you have to always eat at a restaurant or you have no control over what you eat. So that helps a lot.
Just fill the gaps.
Yeah, fill the gaps.
You can with supplements.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So anyways, that's one easy one. So, and I always try to move whenever I can. I prioritize protein at each meal, little things, but it just takes practice. Some trips are better than others. But it's just kind of taking a little bit of your lifestyle at home and just bringing whatever you can with you, but still being mindful to enjoy the place that you're visiting. So
unfortunately, I've never been to Brazil, but Israel, we went to Israel a couple of years ago. Amazing. And there was delicious food. And it wasn't that hard to eat healthy.
No, not at all. It's probably better than here.
Yeah.
So that was the easy part there.
And then I saw in Brazil, you eating papaya, tons of papaya. So you're probably getting different fruits and stuff that you didn't know.
Had to. In fact, I'm sorry, my voice is a little gone because I was laughing and talking with 19 kids for 19 days nonstop. So if my voice seems a little hoarse, it's not because I'm sick. It's because I just chatted way too much. But these kids are incredible. So, oh yeah, they're laughing and asking questions like, why did you just buy 6 papayas at the grocery store? I'm like, who knows when I'm going to come back next? I got to keep the fridge stocked. 20 apples, 2 pineapples, 2 watermelons. So just did what we could with the resources. So anyways, it was fun.
So fun.
It was fun.
And fun to do it with your daughter, with Mia.
Yeah,
Fun
it
to
was
go have that
great.
experience.
We had the best time ever. So worth it.
Okay.
So thanks.
As we get into this conversation today, we
Yeah.
were talking beforehand about the idea that we don't want to come across as know-it-alls, because we don't.
Yes, that is so true.
And this is all of these conversations are as much about us learning and sharing what we're learning as it is us saying, hey, look at us. We know everything, and now we want to teach you. It's not this. And
Not
even
at all.
though I feel like that sometimes when I'm talking to you,
No, yeah, right.
but I just want to lay that foundation. We're not trying to, as we get into this topic of gut microbiome and gut health and how that impacts mood, there's so many good resources out there, whether it's Human Lab podcast or you name it.
Yeah.
And so we don't need to be that, but we're excited to lay some of those foundations.
Absolutely.
To help people understand the basic mechanisms of what's happening physiologically, how our bodies work. Yeah. And then get into some practical application conversations, which is maybe where a lot of us really want to take the time we invest in listening to these episodes.
That's so true. Thanks for reminding everybody of that, because I'm always a little hesitant. I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to pretend to be. I just am a woman with a passion about food and nutrition and learning everything I can along the way. So why not share it as we learn it?
And you know more than most, which is so it's fun to hang with you
Happy
because
to
of
be
that.
here.
Okay, so let's start with the question of like, what is this gut microbiome concept? Seems like it's becoming a bigger thing that people are at least curious about and learning about. So maybe help us. What is the gut microbiome, and how does it interact with our brain? First question.
Such a good question, especially because I think it's becoming more popular.
Yeah.
So I really started to dive into this and figure out what my initial introduction to the gut microbiome started with probiotic foods. And I was like, what are these foods and why are they different than other food? And then as I started to understand living food and the microbes they contain and why they were important to our guts, that's when I started to dive more into this microbiome, the connection to the brain. And so it's fairly new. Like I think I started studying all this, maybe 10, 12 years ago. And it was really new then. I think every day, they're discovering new bacteria, new science constantly. So it's a really fun subject to kind of be involved in because it's constantly updating. So, but I always try to teach the microbiome as simply as possible because it helps me understand it better, especially if I have to teach youth or my own children, right? But to understand that we have living bacteria inside of us. Our entire bodies are made up of bacteria. Some bacteria are good and some bacteria are bad. But the good bacteria sends messages right to our brain. There's like a it's called the vagus nerve, but it's kind of like a superhighway that literally has living microbes that are chatting and talking and feeding and fueling, and they send messages up to our brain, and our brain then is able to have enhancements with our mood and our clarity, and even just down to like how calm we feel. And so the gut microbiome regulates so much, honestly, of even our personality and the decisions we make and the happiness that we carry around. So once I started to learn about the power of these living foods or these probiotics, whether they're supplements again or in foods, it really started to open to my mind to how important, even more so than I thought before, you are what you eat, very literally. Like food is fuel. Food controls your mood and a lot of things like that. So there's some really simple ways that hopefully we can kind of talk about a little bit later too that will help strengthen those messengers as they're trying to come from our gut in the digestive system all the way up to our brain.
I love it. Last time you were here, you painted this picture of looking at all the food that you purchase on the counter and realizing that very literally will become me.
Yes.
What I put in my body is going to become me in my gut, and how that affects everything about me in coming days.
And the food we choose also will help strengthen the way the message is sent, right? Like there's these little, sometimes I like to think, to get, again, not scientifically, but just to describe it like as simply as we possibly could. If you could take your digestive tract, that has all the little squiggly tubes, if you could take it and lengthen it, you could kind of look through it like a hose, right? And inside the lining of that hose, there's this mucosal layer, and you want it really thick and goopy. And when it's strong like that, the food that we eat can be absorbed into the bloodstream, and then it travels to our brain. But as we pick food that maybe isn't grown from the earth or more ultra processed, that mucosal layer gets thinner and thinner. And as it thins out, it becomes weaker and weaker. And so then you get gut permeability or leaky gut, or you start to get digestive issues. So one of my goals is, whenever I teach about the gut microbiome, is don't forget, we want to keep our intestinal walls and our lining and, the tract really strong. And how do we do that? Well, it's a lot of just the food choices that you make. So sometimes that helps to simplify and understand that there are actually biological things that are happening with every bite you take.
So for people who are listening to this, maybe new to trying to understand gut microbiome, and we're going to, maybe after this, I want to ask more about the vagus nerve, which you mentioned.
Yeah.
But what do you think is most surprising about this topic for people that are new to thinking about, okay, this connection between our gut and our brain and all the things you're just describing? What's maybe an interesting thing that might be fascinating for people just learning about this?
Yeah, I mean, at least the clients that I talk to, and even myself, I think they're always surprised to find out that 90% of our serotonin, which is that feel-good hormone, like I'm happy about life, starts in our gut. And even 70% of your immune system starts in your gut. Sometimes we don't understand that the way our mind works, the way we feel, has to do with what's going on inside of our gut. And I think that really is where people stop for a second and think like, wait, no, I thought my brain was my brain, and my brain controlled, yes, of course, my movements and things like that. But really, the gut is like a second brain in and of itself. And so I think that's the most surprising part for people that have never really understood or heard about or known the power of the gut microbiome, that there really are changes that you can completely reverse a bad day, with a couple weeks of just trying to practice. Like if bad days happen more frequently, give it a little bit of time and you'll start to see a shift in the way you see life, in the way you view your problems. It comes from the gut. So I don't know. I mean, I just love when people figure that out. They're like, oh, and I think they're a little bit more willing to try. Yeah. They're willing to like, okay, maybe I'll eat this even though it doesn't look very good. I'll try it and see if it works. And then they catch it and they're like, oh, I do feel better. So I don't know.
Well, and so one of the key parts of this whole connection and how it all works, you mentioned the vagus nerve.
Yes.
Maybe let's talk about that for a minute and help people understand what that is and the role that it plays in all of this communication, because I think you said something that I want to come back to, and that is, as people start to just understand physiologically how this all works and the connection, the second brain, our gut being the second brain, it starts to make you ask questions, right? That maybe open you up to new ways of dealing with, whether it's a mental health thing or an energy thing, because you're understanding the mechanisms that your body uses to naturally feel certain things and maybe not feel certain things.
Yeah.
So vagus nerve, let's go there.
I love the vagus nerve, and it's interesting to note that they're connected by the vagus nerve. And if we have
meaning the brain.
Sorry,
and
yes. Thank you.
gut.
The brain and the gut.
Yeah.
And so if you think about the brain and you think about the gut, I think we might have mentioned this in the first podcast, but I want to bring it up again, because if you were to picture an image of a brain, right, and then simultaneously picture the image of an intestinal tract, they look so similar, right? Like the brain kind of has that light pink tube type, kind of combobbled jumble of who knows what pathways are going on. And if you look at the gut, it very much looks and mimics that same exact image. And I think it's interesting to note that they come from the same cell. As a fetus is growing inside a mother's womb, that cell is divided and creates the brain and creates the digestive tract. So innately, they're already connected because they come from the same cells as the baby is growing. And so this vagus nerve is really critical in making sure this highway or this messenger track stays clear and active and alert and really strong. I think one of the things that we forget is that if we clog up that vagus nerve, kind of relatively speaking or figuratively speaking, then our brain is basically starved from the good things that it needs in order to have this happy, feel good attitude about life. And it happens really slowly. It's not like you have one bad meal and you're like, oh, there goes your messenger track, right? It's something that happens over time, a little by little, as we kind of shift away from eating foods that are grown by the sun and light and have enzymes and cofactors and vitamins and minerals and polyphenols and fibers in them. Then what happens is we actually start to diminish and ruin inside our gut. There's these little, without getting, again, too scientific, there's these little finger-like things, and they're called villi. And these villi, I always talk about them because when they're strong, they actually are able to...
I love that happens because I think it happens to all of us.
I think someone's trying to find me in my house. And I was like, wait, find my phone.
Like, I silenced my phone. How did you do that?
No, I was like, don't worry, my phone's off. Everything happened. I'm like, wait, please tell me that's not my phone.
The best is when you judge somebody that happens to it, then it inevitably will happen to you at church or something.
Oh, totally.
Right after.
I'm like, please, kids, don't try to find me. That's probably what's really happening. Anyways, I was talking about the villi, and I love talking about the villi because once you understand their little role, and I like to talk about them because there's like these little guys like that have these little fingers and they're living inside your gut, and they really are just waiting to be fed, right? They're kind of like, okay, what are we going to get today? What are we going to work with? So if we're feeding them rich leafy greens, colorful foods, they are really happy, and they can take the nutrients from food, absorb them into their little, feelers, and they let the good things absorb, and then they send them right up the vagus nerve, right into your brain. And that's really how the vagus nerve works well with the brain. But some interesting things that can happen, again, with some time, it's not like it's going to be immediately, but these little villi, these little fingers, when they're weakened by maybe, ultra processed food, maybe too many artificial sweeteners, or maybe too many over the counter, like Tylenol and Advil and things like that, people that chronically take those things, these little villi, they actually kind of start to weaken and shrink. And then they're not able to do their job of getting, of getting nutrients and energy from the food we eat. So even sometimes if you eat healthy food, but your little guys, your villi, right, are a little bit weaker, we still don't have the great communication to get up to our brain. So caring for the gut microbiome is knowing this is where that really comes into play, and understanding that it's not just also eating good food that propels it, but also making sure that we're aware of how it works so we know what can strengthen it and what can weaken it. So I love to just like remind my kids about that. And they always, the little guys, phrase came about because I was saying villi and they didn't understand what villi were. And they're like, I thought you were saying little guys the whole time. And I was like, okay, sure, that works. We'll run with that too.
That's perfect.
So anyways, it's a beautiful, way and process that it works. And biologically, I don't know that we have to understand every single detail of the neurotransmitters and the way they come across, but to know that they're waiting to be fed. And if we don't feed them, because they're alive and they're like looking for nutrients all the time, they actually, when they start to weaken, they constantly need food. They actually start to eat that mucosal layer that we were talking about.
Oh, that provides that barrier.
Yes, because they're constantly hungry. So when they start to eat the mucosal layer, right? When that gets weak, then again, we start to see
digestive issues and all sorts of stuff.
Exactly. So, I mean, for me, it's a simplified way of trying to explain how important it is that our gut gives our brain these messages just by the food choices that we make. So
one of the things that
that made sense.
That makes perfect sense. And I love that illustration of the villi. That's perfect. One of the things that was new to me in recent months is I've always had a basic, not always, I'd say in recent years, I've developed a basic understanding of the vagus nerve and what it is. Yes. But what I didn't realize until the past couple months is that it's not, now I always pictured, I love the words you use, the superhighway between the brain and the gut. And there's these messages going back and forth. What I didn't realize, it's that same nerve that has connections to our lungs and our heart and our immune system. So,
and your hormones.
Yeah. I mean, so again, our gut, what happens there is connected to all these things, and you're getting both, there's two kind of primary roles that the vagus nerve plays. One is sensory. So like what's in your gut, what you breathe in the air, all of these things send messages to your brain. And then the other is it allows our brain to send messages back to those organs, right? So like
back and forth.
Any wonder that you're anxious, you sometimes feel it in your gut,
Yes.
Like, it's because it's a brain thing that now you're feeling here, or this idea of gut instinct.
Yes.
That's
I
like a
love that you're bringing this
physiological
up.
thing.
Yeah, it's true. We've all felt it.
Yeah.
I'm sure we have. Like, I don't know how that feels. And your brain's trying to tell your body something.
Yeah. Or you're even you're processing stuff, like you're breathing in
Yeah.
like the hormones that other people, pheromones that other
Oh my
people are
gosh.
releasing, and you're getting
Yeah.
this like gut reaction to them. And this
Yeah.
idea of gut instinct communicating with your brain through things you're sensing is real
Yeah,
and powerful.
It is.
So like taking care of that environment down here
Mhm.
that is connected to all of these things, it becomes mission critical if we want
Absolutely.
to be equipped to manage
Yeah.
things like mood and emotion and all these
Yeah.
things we're hoping to
Yeah.
talk about today.
And especially starting while we, starting as soon as you can, right? Like
Yeah.
it's never going to be too late. That's for sure. But when you know better, you do better. So it doesn't hurt to just be like, okay, well, what am I going to do today? Maybe
Right.
today I'll just start with picking up that banana or that apple, because it's going to make a difference. And then little by little, you'll start to have better communication from your brain to your gut, and you'll start to feel it in every sense. So I'm so glad you brought that up. That's such a good point.
Okay. So laying that foundation,
Yeah.
I would love to
Yeah.
now talk about specific nutrients and things that we eat and how they start to impact some of those feeling neurotransmitters and things that happen in our brain. So whether we're talking about omegas or fiber or
Yes.
or fermented foods,
Mm-hmm.
maybe just your reflections on how these things that we eat, specific nutrients,
Mhm.
impact those neurotransmitters that impact how we feel.
Yes, this is the perfect place to start, because some of these big words like neurotransmitters, vagus nerve, villi for whatever, sometimes you're like, well, does it really matter? What do we do?
Right.
Right? Let's just talk about that. And I think that it's so much easier than we actually understand. Like if we had to go back to nutrition 101, right? Like third grade nutrition, eat your fruits and vegetables right off the bat. That would be the very first thing that could impact your microbiome the fastest and truly with the strongest effects. I think we forget. So these probiotic foods that, are available to us.
So fermented foods, examples would be
Kefir, kombucha, cultured vegetables like sauerkraut. So those are the kinds of foods that we'll want to strive for. So one of the things that will really help our gut are these probiotic foods. So probiotic foods are going to be fantastic. Probiotic foods have, again, they're a living bacteria that are thriving in different food environments, right? That have attached carbs, fats, proteins, all those kinds of things. So those, again, there's three that I love to study about. They're kind of this trilogy of like all of the bacteria that you can find, the good bacteria you can find in food is found in these three foods. So again, it's kefir, right? Which is like a fermented milk. If people don't know about it.
And if you spend too much time with Tanna, like my wife now we always have like different bottles, jars on the shelf and in the fridge. So we make our own kefir.
Doctor, I know. I'm like, go get some mom shine on your counter. You'll start to make some really soon. But that's for sure one of the easiest ones to start with. And so it's just a fermented milk that sits on the counter, and it can contain up to 60 different probiotic strains. And a probiotic strain, again, is a live, living, active food that has good microbes that really feed the gut well. So that's one of them. The second one is this kombucha, and that's also like a fermented tea. And there's a lot to talk about that, but they have a whole different set of probiotics in them besides the ones that the kefir has. And then there's cultured vegetables, which would be like a sauerkraut or a kimchi, which again, you either love them or you hate them. But eventually you'll love it if you keep trying it. And then when you know how good it is for your body, you're like, okay, I can handle 2 tablespoons a day, right? Or even a week, right? But those 3 foods contain these living probiotics. And probiotics literally are food for those microbes. Those are living microbes that feed the little villi that talk to your gut and talk to your vagus nerve and send the messages up. So those are the 3 things that I always am like, hey, if you want to start with something that is really effective, that's where you want to go. The easiest, though, would be to start with fruits and vegetables. And the reason why I say those 2 back and forth interchangeably is because for a long time when I started studying gut health and gut bacteria and figuring out what these probiotic foods were, I would read these scientific studies and listen to these commentators and just try to figure it out. Because when I became a certified nutritionist, my emphasis was in sports performance, which was awesome, but they didn't talk about the gut. 12 years ago, right? And I was like, well, but this probiotic kefir, where does this fit in? And so I kind of just dove in myself and started to really just uncover every book and everything that I could find. And it like lit something in my brain up, just bright. And I knew there was something to these foods, right, that just naturally can be fermented. And so forever I thought it was just going to be the power of probiotics. As I've continued to study, maybe 3 or 4 years into that, I came across another really beautiful study done in Australia. They have really fantastic food studies there and, other places. And they had just finished like a 7-year study that talked about how actually prebiotics or fruits and vegetables are just as important as the probiotics. And the reason is because these fruits and vegetables that have fiber and vitamins and phytonutrients, they have this ability to feed even more the probiotic that is in this living food. So again, hopefully I'm explaining that well. They go hand
They're
in hand.
synergistic.
Yes. And so it wasn't just an emphasis on probiotic foods, and it wasn't just an emphasis on fruits and vegetables, but that together 50-50, they literally create the most ideal gut microbiome because they feed off each other. Probiotics, like a living bacteria in food, it's a transient bacteria. So they ebb and they flow and they grow. Sometimes they're really strong and sometimes they're really weak. And all of that depends on how well they are fed. So prebiotics, the fruits and the vegetables that are loaded with all those really good fibers, insoluble and soluble fibers, they feed the probiotics. When the probiotics are always there, they're constantly nourishing those little villi. And then the messages can kind of keep getting stronger and you can continually to improve your gut, not just reach a point of like, okay, I think I'm good, but you can continue to reach more and more optimal mental clarity. Energy continues to just like bound, right? I'm always surprised at like the clarity of thought or the energy that comes like without having to rely on caffeine. And I know it's because of the strength of the gut microbiome. So right off the bat, those are the first two things that I would think like, hey, don't neglect fruits and vegetables. First and foremost, that might be easier for some people than trying to go find a probiotic food. But if you are someone that's ready to try some of these probiotic foods, like you don't have to start making it right off the bat, but if you want to, try making it or just go to the store and see if you can find kefir or kombucha. Be brave and try a sauerkraut. They have a lot of really cool companies now too that make some that are like dill and garlic. So if you like a dill pickle, it tastes just like a dill pickle. Just this morning or this afternoon, I had like a ginger and red cabbage beet kraut on like a turkey sandwich and it was delicious. So it's not going to have to just be, again, kimchi or the old-fashioned sauerkraut that you put on your hot dog. There are a lot of really great flavors out there. So those are kind of the first two. I think I'm answering your question. I'm trying to remember what your original question was.
Do you think between the two, when you think about prebiotics and probiotics, more people struggle with one versus the other, trying to get it right? Yeah.
I wish it was prebiotic or probiotics, but I think it's more prebiotics.
They struggle with the fiber more.
Yeah, they struggle with eating fruits and vegetables. That's why it's like back to nutrition 101. Yeah. Like, we know this, right? We've been taught this. It's all around us at the grocery stores, yet sometimes we're more inclined to buy what's on trend, what diet culture's saying.
Yeah, get the kombucha.
Exactly. They see like the protein bar and you're like, oh, I think I need that. Or they see the high fiber brownie or something, right? That seems like it's going to be really great. They know some of the keywords, but sometimes just going back to like an apple, a banana, a box of blackberries. And if it's in season, grab a peach. If it's in season, grab some cherries, right? In the winter, grab some pomegranates. That tends to be harder for people than even finding a probiotic, right? A supplement. I don't know why. It's just been the trend that I have seen over and over. And I'm like, oh gosh, who knew? But that's why I always think like, if you're going to start somewhere, actually just pay attention to how many plants you're eating. I mean, if we could get 1 plant per meal or 30 plants a week, it sounds a little daunting right off the bat. You're like, wait, 30 plants a week, but it doesn't have to be a salad or a smoothie. Sure, that would be easy. But like, even if you're going to get like chicken tacos, throw in some cabbage, some cilantro, some tomatoes. Like every time our family gets curry, I always have like a bag of steamed cauliflower and carrots, and I throw that in the curry extra, or I'll use that instead of a lot of rice. And so there's ways that you can kind of start to incorporate fruits and vegetables because those really are a powerhouse of fuel for the gut microbiome and for your muscles and for your brain. I mean, for so many things, right? The cells, regeneration. So I really think that is a little bit more underutilized than it could be.
See, I expected you to answer the opposite. That's really interesting. I did read an interesting study though that indicated that for every 5% increase in your fiber intake, you have a 5% decreased risk of depression.
Oh, I believe it.
And so I'm sure there's a point of diminishing returns at some point where that doesn't continue forever, but just to eat a little bit more fruit and vegetables, and your risk for depression, major depression, goes down.
And it's because those fruits that contain the vitamins and the minerals are linked to those neurotransmitters, right? That are constantly trying to tell your brain how you feel. And so when you feed those good things like GABA and some of those other really fantastic neurotransmitters and the serotonin levels, it's right there. And so I am so grateful that these beautiful, brilliant scientists are figuring this out and sharing it with us, because you put it into practice and you see it and you feel a difference.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be complicated, like, necessarily create this exact recipe, have this exact smoothie, put a quarter cup of this. It's just go to the store and see what you're drawn to, right? Like colors and beautiful foods that are grown by the sun make all the difference on so many levels to your gut microbiome.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So I would love to now maybe talk about inflammation.
Oh yeah.
Like what kinds of, because we hear a lot about, we need this anti-inflammatory thing, or inflammation's bad for everything.
Yeah.
And what causes inflammation in the gut, and how does that impact our brain and our moods?
That is such a good question also. It goes back to kind of the same idea of what's starving those villi, what's causing them to weaken. As they're weakening, because they have less nutrients, they're also becoming inflamed. And so inflammation is the root cause of all disease. So the inflammation actually comes when they are starved from those vitamins, minerals, and really good phytonutrients. So what causes inflammation in the gut? A lot of times it can be an allergy. So I want to be like right up front with that. Like a lot of times people have gut issues. It could be lactose. It could be gluten. It could be something that they have an intolerance or an allergy to, which will massively increase the inflammation in the gut, which is really great to be mindful of what those might be for the specific individual. Like everybody knows someone that's gluten-free or dairy-free, right? Like, and sometimes those are self-diagnosed and you've just paid more attention. And so it's good to follow some of those things. It's also hard because wheat's completely different than it was 20 years ago, right? It's totally genetically modified. So some of those modifications are giving us a poor quality grain, and the grain, your body's like, I don't even know what this is. I can't digest it very well. We lack the digestive enzymes that we need to digest that. So then the inflammation goes up and your body's like, I don't really know what to do with this. You can counter some of that with some probiotics because they're loaded with digestive enzymes, whether they're supplements or the whole food. But a lot of the times the inflammation comes from an allergy. So there's that right off the bat. So if you're someone that has that, that's okay. Embrace that. And the food today is easy to get around a lot of that. Just a little bit of knowledge will empower you with so much information to create, foods to help with your inflammatory trigger responses with that. But also we forget that a lot of the times this ultra processed diet that we are surrounded by, you walk into the grocery store, 7-Eleven, wherever you are, and it's right in front of you. Those foods, not only do they not have nutrients in them, but they're also loaded with additives that are killing and destroying the microbes that are living, right? And so it's not even just like, oh, you're going to not improve yourself, but you're actually going to slowly degrade your gut microbiome. And when that is weakening and lessening, then again, the mucosal layer that we talked about gets thinner and thinner. And when that starts to leak food, then inflammation starts. It's like, oh, wait, this doesn't feel right. Like if you sprain an ankle, you can tell it's sore and it needs to recover and needs to rest and needs nourishment. Just the same way that your ankle would swell up, the inside of your gut, kind of has this inflammatory response. And then if we don't try to correct it, it just continues to get worse. And then that will lead to bigger things like Crohn's maybe, or like a chronic IBS syndrome and things like that. So it's really important to just be mindful of what causes inflammation in order to help reduce the inflammation.
It's such a big focus right now politically, and not to get political, because some people love the Maha movement, some don't love the Maha movement, but I think good things are happening. And as you're describing that, the thing I'm just running through my mind is it any wonder that we've been putting that stuff in our bodies now for a couple decades or more in at least in higher quantities, that we have higher now mental health problems and more chronic illness and all sorts of things.
There is a direct correlation.
There's got to be.
I have no doubt. I don't know. I mean, I can't cite any source study right off the top of my head, but I feel it, right? Like my gut, actually, totally. No pun intended, is telling me, because I see in people that don't necessarily focus the majority of their diet on those processed foods aren't experiencing that at the levels that others aren't, right? Like even just being when I was in Brazil with all those kids are younger. they have resilience and it's fine. But there are some that I'm like, oh, you're suffering from a massive mood swing. Your anxiety's really rising. Why? Oh, because you had Skittles for breakfast.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, should we swap that out for an
Good
apple,
idea.
right? Where those that were more mindful and had eggs and a banana, right? Or a little bit of papaya or something, their energy levels stayed the same. And so even right in front of me, I was watching it. Like, I'm not going to say anything, of course, but I just was really observant. And just trying to watch and see, like, some of those correlations happen quickly. And of course, it will take time. They get more and more severe. But it's one of the things that I'm most panicked about, like for our youth. I'm like, if there's anything we can do, it's just share a little bit of information, because information is power. If they knew, sometimes we get stuck on this like calorie thing, like, oh, there's only 100 calories in it, so it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. But what's the nutrient density in that, right? The nutrient density is where the real fuel comes in food and in lowering inflammation levels and getting that mental clarity and really having stability in your mood and your anxiety and things like that. So
one of the things that I found interesting with people focusing a lot on creating probiotic supplements, for example, is we know we want to encourage a food first mentality always. I think that's really important, but they're isolating these different strains of probiotics that allows you to see very direct correlation between this particular probiotic strain and how it impacts you. For example, one of the ones in Core 7 is this LP815 that has it's a GABA kind of stimulator. Yeah. And so reduced anxiety, improved sleep, all these things that you can see just by the introduction of this one probiotic strain, which is just validating for the fact for what you're saying now. If we can get these things in combinations of other probiotics through foods, of course that's going to help us.
That is my favorite thing about probiotics. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say that's probably like what you're describing is why I love this field so much. Because again, 10 years ago, we didn't have specific strain targeted symptom reducers, right? It was like, get the probiotics and feed them and watch yourself feel better. But every day they're like, oh, that's probiotic, or the Rhamnosus GG, like that one is directed for immunity, right? And gut strength and things like that. And that to me is one of the miracles of the hastening of knowledge and technology and work, because we can now target specifically, we know that if you experience anxiety, try this specific strain. Whereas sometimes kefir and kombucha and probiotics, they're great, but they're also a little bit more diverse in how long you ferment them, how well you do it, what fruit you use. You don't get the consistency. Yes, you'll get the fortification of the gut, but I love the technology that comes in being able to get very strain specific to target some of those specific symptoms. So anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just like,
fun.
Oh, I'm so excited about it. I love it, because that's the coolest part about probiotics in the supplement world, for sure.
It's a very progressive part of this industry. I'm learning over the last years we've dug into it. It's just, seems like there's constantly new information and new ideas and new probiotic strains that are being made available. And
they're studying them with really great intensity, so they are not questionable. Like a lot of times it was like, well, we've got a group of this many people and we think this is going well, but they're actually able to get into the lab and see how it's changing and affecting, again, the vagus nerve communication back and forth. And I think that for me is one of the coolest parts about understanding probiotics and the way they affect your gut. So,
is there anything else that you think is worth talking about specifically about how the in the gut, we're really creating these different neurotransmitters that are impacting mood. So how the gut bacteria, maybe we've talked about that enough, but anything else there that is just, you think, helpful for people to understand or think about?
I think that one of the things, like if I had to say why people aren't necessarily, what I really think is so important to understand about this, about the neurotransmitters and about the changes that can happen, is maybe not necessarily something science related, but that consistency is what's actually going to make the change. So you can take a really great probiotic and you can know that it's going to help your mind and help your immunity. But if you're only on that probiotic for a couple weeks or the life of the pill bottle, right, until it runs out, it will help, but it's almost just like a drop in the bucket, right? Like there is so much more power in the consistency of adapting some of these foods and these lifestyles and the probiotics into our daily life. So that becomes more or less just what we do and how we live than just finding the best probiotic, right? Or the best strains, putting them in there and kind of waiting for it to happen. There's so much more to change the mood and the anxiety and the depression and the mental health realm in our life than just sometimes finding a probiotic, right? Or finding, having an apple a day or whatever. That will help. But I always want people to know that it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, you're going to go out and get the supplement, and yeah, you might forget a day or 2 or 3, and that's fine. Just pick back up and make sure that becomes a part of the routines you have for your health and maintenance. And so we get focused on fixing the problem or the result, when really we want to focus on the routine of making sure that becomes a regular part of our wellness. And then you see so many less symptoms 10 years down the road, right? Or you might even be preventing something that could be building up in your system. So again, I don't know if that answers the question entirely, but I think that's one of the things that I always want people to understand is like, it's okay if you miss a day or 2, or you don't have a great day of eating your fruits and vegetables, but it doesn't matter. Pick it up tomorrow and know that consistency in these probiotics, prebiotics, the realm of fatty acids and omega-3s and all that kind of, wonderful things, fiber, the consistency is where we'll start to see the wins. This is what will change our mental health and the way we really do live and decide to, view how happy or how sad we want to be. So I hope that comes across what I'm trying to say.
It makes a ton of sense. Yeah. The one thing that we haven't talked about much yet is amino acids.
Oh yeah.
And we get those obviously through foods that we eat and meats and other things. But amino acids, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been interested in amino acids because we had a functional medicine doctor who we partnered with when we opened and ran an addiction recovery program.
Yeah.
And we would do IV amino acid therapy. And we saw this dramatic change in people within, and it was almost like clockwork. It was like on day, we would start this IV drip and they would be on it for 8 hours a day.
It's amazing. It's a long time.
These IV amino acids for 10 days. Mm-hmm. And it was like clockwork. On day roughly 5 to 7, they would have this flood of emotion because they'd been numbed from addiction, like they've overstimulated certain things, and it's caused their whole neurotransmitter and the neurotransmitter receptor balances to be all off. But then you feed their bodies with the amino acids, which are the precursors to a lot of the things needed to create the neurotransmitters. And all of a sudden they would feel for the first time in a long time. And they would be emotional, like watching videos, or they would hold their wife's hand and say that they don't remember feeling the butterflies in their stomach, but they could just feel again.
Yeah.
And so maybe amino acids is the other thing that I just don't want to lose sight of, is because I think it's practical as people are thinking about diet or supplementation. There's probiotics, there's prebiotics. There's also some amino acids that play an important role as precursors to your body's ability to actually create dopamine and serotonin and these other things.
Well, I was just looking at some of my notes because I actually had thought about this too and wanted to make sure that I was like, okay, let's understand a lot of this. For me, in simpler terms, I love amino acids. I'm not a mental health specialist, and I 100% love hearing that about what was happening in the clinics. And I wholeheartedly believe it, because even on a level where that's not that severe of like an addiction or a mental health condition that's super severe, I know that amino acids really are the building blocks of our body, right? And our proteins inside. And so the muscles in our body are so closely connected to our nerves. Like we talked about mitochondria last time too. And so much of those fuel systems, right, inside our body happen and work and thrive because of the amino acids that we get from the proteins we eat. But there are specific amino acids, like I'm just looking at one of these notes, and I love this because tryptophan is one of the most essential amino acids and a precursor to serotonin. So if you don't have enough tryptophan, right, then your serotonin, even if you're still trying to eat those good foods and all the wonderful, colorful things, there still has to have some of those amino acids and the proper food building blocks, if you will, right, to make those things happen. But I love it because you can't isolate it, right? Like, and what I mean by that is you do need to have a diet rich in protein. You need to have a diet rich in fruits and vegetables. You do need to have a sun exposure. You need to have connections with humans, because those are the things that help build and take the neurotransmitters or take the amino acids, right, to where they need to go so that this nerve can help respond and this hormone will drop. And then serotonin's like, oh, thank you for this. Let me produce this more. And again, without knowing all the science perfectly. I just know that everything is linked together, and that is really where people start to thrive. We cannot just sit and isolate gut microbiome health and think that we'll just target mental health with just focusing on the gut microbiome, right?
But it's one you can't ignore it because it's critical.
Yes.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
And let's also remember that sleep is massively important, that protein and movement is massively important, connection with humans and being outside and being in the sun and breathing and meditating, they all are intertwined so well to get the most optimal outcome from the amino acids we're trying to take, the fruits and vegetables, the fiber, the omegas, right? And so hopefully, again, that kind of is just an easier, simpler way to look at it without feeling like, okay, how do I need to target this very specific tryptophan?
Yeah.
Right? Tryptophan's wonderful. It's in eggs and chicken and all those things. And we know that that will help your serotonin even more. But without the system of the gut microbiome, without the fiber to feed some of those things, even the tryptophan might not be as effective as it could be without getting the fiber to feed, the gut microbes that will actually deliver the message to get the serotonin to the brain. Did I say that all right?
I think you said it right.
Yeah.
I hope that this conversation, I hope one of the things that this does for people is it sparks curiosity.
Yeah.
Because
so true.
Think about all the places you could go with what you just said.
Yeah.
Like tryptophan.
Yeah.
And it produces serotonin, which helps with stress levels and anxiety, also sleep. So maybe as you're planning your meals, maybe thinking about turkey at night might actually help you sleep better because you're going to get tryptophan, which will help produce serotonin. And so there's all sorts of things you could do, which is really fun to think about. And again, I'm a novice at thinking about this stuff in like the last 6 years, but right as we thought about, for example, Course 7, and I'm always hesitant. I don't want this to come across as a commercial
but
ever,
we love
but
it
so
too
excited.
much. Yeah, we're so excited about this.
But thinking about, so how do we create something for people? Well, like we need L-tyrosine, and we need tryptophan in this for various reasons, because they are precursors to these different important neurotransmitters that we need to feel motivated, dopamine, that we need to feel calm and sleep well, serotonin.
Yeah, all those hormone regulators. And they play a really integral part, and they're all webbed together. So I love that. It's kind of like, well, where am I right now in my life, right?
Yeah.
Like if I do want to improve my gut microbiome, what am I doing? So take like an internal assessment almost and be like, well, what feels the easiest to attack? Like maybe it is just finding fruits and vegetables, or maybe it is looking more into some amino acid supplementation or whatever. Then you start to build on where it's easiest. And then when it's easy, it becomes almost just like a natural part again of kind of just becoming part of your lifestyle. And then you can kind of add in some of the trickier things, right? Like kind of that milk before meat mentality of just see what feels natural. As you're listening even to this right now, people will be drawn to something. Something will stand out in their minds, whether it was, again, any one of the topics that we talked about. Don't ignore that gut intuition. And if that's what comes to your mind, then start with that. Maybe it is sleep. We haven't even discussed much about sleep, but if you're like, gosh, I really don't get sleep. Even if you eat so well and you get all the right probiotics, but you are not sleeping, your body can't pull those hormones, those neurotransmitters in to function enough to even see massive changes. So again, kind of just, I love that you said, like, be curious about it. Remembering that knowledge is power. So any little bit of information that we learn or we discover together, it can build and make changes. And then it starts to roll forth bigger and bigger. So I don't know. I just get so excited about it.
I do too. I love that you've really encouraged in the conversations that we've had. And then I've seen you teach these classes. You've encouraged people to not feel overwhelmed, as you were just talking about. Start somewhere. Like if you're curious about this conversation we just had about tryptophan. Yeah. Well, maybe I'm struggling with sleep and maybe I'm going to figure that out. And maybe that's just one lever plus some other things, but I'm going to just try that. And then that made a little difference. And then I'm going to try something else rather than thinking you have to figure out the whole thing. Yes. Starting with one thing that you're curious about, trying it, noticing that it makes a difference, then build on it.
Yes. And that's so true. And I think sometimes we sit around and wait for the right time, or we wait for the energy to do it. Yeah. But it just takes that one step forward, and then you'll start to see momentum. Yes, thank you. That's exactly where I was going to go. The momentum will come with one small step rather than waiting for the momentum, waiting for the motivation to just kind of hit you one day.
To do it all, because it can feel overwhelming.
It totally can. And that's the thing I think that we also have to remember in these kinds of conversation is that there is someone also against all of this, right? Like in the universe, like there's also a plan, a beautiful plan for happiness, but there's also someone that's trying to make that plan not go forth and to make us feel awful. And so we have to realize that sometimes the enemy will have a touch point in our physical body. So are we going to let that stop with there? Or are we going to overcome that and keep moving forward to kind of just fight back? Like it's worth it in every step of the way. You will never regret a day of moving your body or trying a new probiotic, right? Like probiotics make all the difference.
Yep.
I mean, I loved what it did to my life and to my friends' lives in the community. I think that's the biggest testament to me right there is just seeing somebody around you and how it really starts to make a difference. Like my family, before we got into really caring for our gut microbiome, my husband, I don't know, Robbie, if you were ever like this, I should ask Jessica.
Is he gonna be mad if you shared the story? I don't know where you're going with it.
The other men might be, but I mean, I don't know how you are, but like I said, we should get Jessica in the seat. But like the man cold, sometimes men, when they get sick, they're out for 10 days. And I'm like, oh, you have the sniffles, right? So I remember when we were starting down this route of like really attacking the gut microbiome and wanting to improve, I started making kefir for my whole family. And I put my husband on it every day. I was like, just like a cup a day. And then he kind of started to like it. He has not, I'm not kidding, in over 10 years now, he has not missed a single day of work. From having the man cold, right? Which I'm so relieved about because I don't have to keep bringing, food and water and checking on him, which I'm sometimes not very good at because I get a little busy. But I'm just amazed to see the truthfulness that it really does have an effect on my own family, like my own children. Like, yes, we're going to get sick. People will get sick, even eating probiotics and healthy prebiotic foods, but your symptoms are reduced. Energy raises. And I love it because in my own family, and in again, some of my best friends, I was trying to think of a really awesome, successful client story, right? I could tell you any client that's actually tried it has come back and been like, wow, I noticed a difference. I know more details and I can witness it constantly. Like even just this morning, my Pilates class, one of my best friends was like, I have been on kefir now for I don't know how many years. It's been probably 5 years since, we started it. And she's like, every day I get more energy and I feel so great. And she's like, and then I started this probiotic supplement and this is helping. And so they work together. So again, it's not just this perfect regimen, but it's little by little, just seeing what you can add and watching for the difference. I think sometimes we forget to just, we live our life and we do our things, but when you start to pay attention to what's actually happening, then you notice it more and it becomes exciting and then you get more momentum and more motivation. So anyways, I just love witnessing it firsthand. Even again, not totally understanding all of the scientific, gastroenterology, science and doctorates and all that kind of stuff. There is proof all around me in every single person that actually does and tries some of these things. It's right before my eyes and it's before, we could even pull people from the workshop and they're like, gosh, I feel different. I know the gut microbiome affects my mind so much. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this whole topic. So,
well, it's interesting because you're in a place with what you do and the things that you teach where one, you're directly interacting with people that you're educating and then they're trying stuff, they come back, but also people will just know that you're in this space. So you probably become this repository of people wanting to share their stories and successes. And then it reinforces your excitement for it.
It's so true. Like I had a friend that was in Spain and she's like, I found homemade kefir in Spain at this restaurant and sent a picture. And I'm like, I love it. They're finding it. Or, they'll find a supplement like this has completely helped my, menopause symptoms or whatever it is, or my immunity. And I'm like, they see it, they're watching for it, and they're trying. And I think that's sometimes what we need to remember is we don't have to be stuck with the symptoms that we're at. We're in control and we can change, our gut microbiome. So.
Okay. So I would love to talk about two questions and maybe we've talked about them a little bit already, but not fully. Gut-friendly foods that have an impact on stabilizing mood and reducing anxiety specifically.
Okay.
So, and maybe we've been talking about fibers and prebiotics, probiotics. So maybe there's nothing else to add there, but I know that's a passion of ours with our mental health space.
There are pretty much the same answers. I think a lot of them, for sure. Fermented foods, like we talked about, along with a good probiotic. Like if you find one that you love and to keep diversity kind of in mind too, like not finding, sometimes you'll find like a really inexpensive one, like maybe a Trader Joe's one's $5.99, whatever. We're going to try it. Remember that you don't want to stay on that probiotic for the rest of your life. Like add some diversity and follow the science, like find ones that are stronger that again are targeted. So I think those, I also have prebiotic fibers, which we've kind of covered, like getting the fiber from the fruits and the vegetables. One we haven't talked yet about is omega-3s. And that I think we did maybe when we talked about inflammation, we could have gone there,
Not
but
in
I probably
depth,
forget.
though. I think
Yeah, omega-3s are incredible because these are the foods that actually will help combat the inflammation. So a lot of the times, like at least in food, this is what I know the best. Our inflammation levels rise when our omega-6 levels rise. And omega-6 is found in a lot of processed foods, right? Especially some of those seed oils that are kind of a hot topic right now, right? Our body should have, we do need omega-6s. Our body should have like a 1-to-1 ratio, right?
the balance is really important.
Exactly. But when we're eating the standard American diet and trying to feed ourselves from just things at the grocery store, they're finding those ratios, like in testing people right now, that the ratio is 1 omega-3 to 26 omega-6. Which is so far beyond any realm of trying to find balance in an inflammatory levels. Inflammation is good because it can kind of help, our bodies regulate. So omega-3s are really, really important. Plus that fatty acid, those short chain fatty acids are also like a form of prebiotic that feed the gut microbiome. They thrive. Those villi, again, back to the finger, back to the mucosal layers, those love an omega-3. So you can take a supplement. Of course, I love an omega-3. We want to look for an EPA and a DHA when taking a supplements, but also there's the things like, flaxseed, fatty fish like salmon, and I love chia seeds too.
Yeah.
So those are some of my favorite off the bat, like gut-friendly foods with really big impacts. Like I think we include those as often as possible in our week at home. And then the other one that we didn't say yet, but it's already in everything, is polyphenols. I have this passion about polyphenols because to me, they make the world go round, and they come straight from the sun. Like for me, they feel like it's a gift from heaven that like adds color and flavor to all the foods we eat. So I just love polyphenols because you can find them in everything from berries, apples, all the brighter the color,
colorful fruits and
Yes.
vegetables.
Yes. And it's so like, who doesn't want to eat a beautiful plate of those kinds of things? So I even love them because they're in spices and herbs. And so I love herbal tea, like especially in the winters, or in the summer times, I'll do like a cold iced herbal tea, like a hibiscus with some fresh limes and a little bit of stevia or, a sweetener of your choice or whatever. But those polyphenols are so rich in creating a strong gut microbiome. And so again, it just adds some fun and variety to the food we eat. And it's like the most powerful thing you could put in your body on not just the gut microbiome level, but again, back to the cellular level, back to strengthening the mitochondria. And so again, they're all related. So those were just some of the ones. I mean, if any woman out there loves dark chocolate, that's for sure in there too.
Oh, is that
that's
rich
in
with
polyphenols. So that dark chocolate, like cacao, fruit, the richer, the darker the chocolate is, the higher it is in the polyphenols. I've gotten all my kids just, again, if you don't like something, you think you don't like it, exposure to that food, they say about 15 times will start to help your body and your taste acquire. So all my children, believe it or not, prefer dark chocolate
to milk chocolate.
Do they really? And it just started to happen like the last couple of years. I mean, I got an 18, 16, 13, and 11-year-old, but maybe not the 11-year-old.
Because the last 15 years, you've been putting dark chocolate in the Christmas stockings and Easter baskets.
And now it's like a competition. My husband's like, ooh, I found a 90% dark chocolate. And my Ava is like, well, this one's 76. This is about what I really love. Maybe not the baby, like Greta, the 11. She's kind of like, can I just have a regular milk chocolate Hershey's bar or whatever? But it's true. Like I've started to notice, and I'm like, maybe one day. So just like, don't give up. If you think you don't like chocolate, dark chocolate, or you think you don't like a certain fruit or a vegetable, or tea's not your thing, sure, try it.
Exposure.
Just keep exposing yourself to it, and you'll start to see that you'll feel a difference. And it's kind of fun to add variety to your diet. And again, diversity is king. Consistency is king. There's simple concepts. If we had to simplify it, diversity in the food we eat, diversity in the colors, consistency, right? Those kinds of things play a bigger role than, again, understanding the science and finding the exact strain of probiotic that we need. So it simplifies it and makes it fun and approachable. And also you can invite friends and neighbors and families and on this journey, like, whenever I got a pack of kombucha, I would be like, oh, I'd take it to my sister and be like, have you tried this flavor? I don't know that she would go buy it, but it was like a little like, hey, try this. Try just a little cup, quarter cup a day. And it will, What do you think? So I don't know. I just love the power of food. So those are some of the thoughts that I have about gut-friendly foods.
I'm glad you brought up omegas,
Yeah.
simply because. So we went to this conference.
Oh
together,
yeah.
and
Which
I
is
ended
so
up with like
awesome.
6 of those omega-3 blood testing kits. I still haven't done them, but I haven't done it because I know that I'm not getting enough omegas already.
shoot.
So I'm like, I want to wait until I'm actually taking some to see if I'm getting enough, because I know I'm not getting enough. But
yeah.
I mean, I just read a study. Again, you mentioned good studies coming out of Australia, but it was an Australian study.
Of course it was. They're the best.
And they showed that getting 1,000 milligrams a day of EPA was as effective at treating depression as Prozac.
Oh my gosh, I believe it.
Like in reducing depressive symptoms. So they looked at them side by side, and they got the same result with giving somebody just omega-3s in reducing depressive symptoms as Prozac. And when they did them together, they got slightly better results. But I mean, talk about a powerful result for people who are dealing with these mental health issues.
And it's so easy. And the supplement version of omega-3s are getting better and better. I mean, I graduated college a long time ago, but that's what I did my senior project on, was omega-3s. So I've been taking these for 25 years, and I'll go anywhere from 1,000 to 9,000, milligrams of the EPA, DHA, whatever. And I'm not kidding. I feel a positive increase every year in my mental health. And I don't know if it's omega-3s or not, but I love that they keep studying it and they keep pulling out these things, because it really is the simplest way. Like, add a little omega-3 right to your diet. Like, I mean, they're kind of bigger, but you get better at taking pills. They're getting
better so you don't get the fish.
Yeah, the fish burps.
Taste,
And they have all my kids have a version. I have a version for kids and I have a version for teens. Now my 18-year-old can take the older one. And again, you don't have to be perfect. There's days that we forget, but it's the consistency of taking it, which lowers the inflammation, which really does. Again, right there's proof in that study that it will help your mental health too. So, and lower inflammation. So I love it.
So good.
Food's so powerful.
Okay. Supplements, interventions, and trends. I would love to hear your take on, are there things that are overhyped? There's a lot of activity and buzz, and we've talked about some positive buzz, like with probiotic supplements. But maybe I'm asking the wrong question. Maybe the question more appropriately is, there is buzz around probiotics and other things. In any way, is it overhyped, or do you think it's deserving of all the attention it's getting?
To be honest, I think it's deserving. Sometimes we give more credit to the supplement than actually happens. And what I mean by that is, so I've worked with probiotic foods for a very long time. I've taught, hundreds of workshops in people's homes on how to make kefir. And I always get this question, well, this probiotic supplement I take, whether it's, X, Y, and Z, whatever, makes my tummy feel better. And it kind of helps me go to the bathroom, which is most women, nobody wants to talk about it, but so many women have problems with going to the bathroom and bloating and just some of that distension and discomfort. Like, I wish we talked about it more. I am even hesitant to talk about poop on Instagram or whatever, because it's just uncomfortable.
But we're going to do it here.
But that really is. So sometimes when you take a supplement like that, you notice a change in the bowel movements and you feel it. But sometimes the change isn't happening because you're actually shifting the gut microbiome. And by that, I mean, it took me a minute to figure this out. I wanted to study this because there can be lower quality supplements, right? And they aren't as potent or they aren't as diverse. But because they're cousins to these microbes, or they're a small, lower concentrated dose of these positive probiotics, the villi is still like, oh yeah, I like these guys. I recognize them. I want these. So they'll take it and they'll kind of change the stool, even though they aren't quite necessarily fueling with the nutrients they need. So sometimes people are like, I just go to the bathroom better. And in my mind, I'm like, if that's helping go to the bathroom, great, keep on it, right? Like, there's no harm in that. It just might not be shifting the strength of your gut microbiome as much as we think it is. And it's, again, because they're related, there's something happening, but you also can tap out. Like, when you lift weights, like you can lift 5-pound weights until all of a sudden that won't make a change anymore, because you have to up your level. Like, a plateau is a really good thing in my mind when you're working out, because it means your body's making changes. But the same thing can happen in your gut microbiome. If you're taking one supplement across the board, your body's got plenty of that, right? So add some diversity, or add some more fruits and vegetables to feed a different strength of that probiotic strain, whatever it is. So I never want to give probiotics, like the lower quality supplements, more credit than they deserve, but I also know they have a place. So I always feel like don't forget that a supplement's not going to solve everything. Lifestyle is really what will make the greatest change.
Yeah.
They will help you along the way, and they're everywhere now. Like, I mean, we've got prebiotic, probiotic sodas and bars and things like that. And so to be mindful that people realize it's something to capitalize on. So that's why I'm so grateful for what the work that we have put into, I mean, again, without trying to like sound
It's
like
okay. We can be a little bit of a commercial.
Well,
It's okay.
well,
because we're proud of it.
It is. We are so proud of it. And it was just so many hours of like figuring out like the best strain and things that will react better, because a high quality supplement does make a high quality difference.
Yeah.
And so to keep that in mind, like it's great. Like I can't tell you how many, if I went to my mom's house, Mom, I love you, but she'll buy any probiotic supplement that she sees, especially if it's on sale or whatever. And then she'll take it for a couple of days and then forget, and then she'll take it again and forget. And I'm like, your gut hasn't shifted. Sometimes she still suffers for some of these same gut issues. And so, you know, remembering that it is more of a lifestyle thing to include in any of the supplements that we
supplement with these capsules and different vitamins.
And a high quality supplement. And I mean, I love ours because it's more bioavailable because we've got it in the liquid form. So we know that the stomach acid, which is a lot of problem with probiotic supplements, sometimes because they go from the stomach, which has all the stomach acid, then to the small intestine, then to the large intestine, they're not getting absorbed all the way through the full digestive tract. Sometimes the stomach acid can kind of just burn them up. And it's like, that's why it helps with the stool, but it's not actually helping build the gut microbiome strength that will make the changes for the mental clarity and the anxiety and all those kinds of things. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like they're great, but just don't put all your eggs in that basket.
Not overhyped, but don't put all your eggs in that basket.
Exactly.
One of the studies that we read about one of the probiotics in our product, it showed, talking about poop, going back there, one of the cool things they showed in really well-designed studies was that this particular probiotic strain reduced gut transit time. I can't remember what the number of hours was.
That.
It was like a high number. It was almost 20 something hours. Of it just helped you get the poop through your system faster.
Which is the best thing you want. People that have digestive problems, I'm like, when was the last time you went to the bathroom? Yeah. That food is in there and decaying and rotting. And no wonder, as it's emitting gases and toxins, no wonder your tummy hurts. No wonder you're bloated. Like, get it out. So I love that. I forgot about that strain. I mean, I didn't really, but I just was like, oh, I'm so glad you brought it up. Because again, the science can show a targeted symptom that we want to attack, and let's get it with the right probiotic strain for that. So it's a beautiful part about this world. So
okay, let's go to myth busting questions.
Okay,
and I think you've talked about some of these, but this will be like a rapid fire summary of some of what we've talked about, and then maybe some new things. So fact or fiction first. You need to take a probiotic every day to have a healthy gut.
Fiction.
Yeah.
They're transient bacteria. So they're going to grow and shrink. And same thing with foods, that you don't have to have it every day. Just even a couple times a week will make a difference. The more you take, the faster the difference will happen, but you don't have to have it every day to see change.
And as you've tried to educate us on, we can get a lot of the positive benefits by taking fermented foods and other things too.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about fermented foods? We've answered this one, are the same as probiotics. So if I'm consuming one, I don't need the other.
Yeah, this one I was like, okay, this isn't just a fact or a fiction question, because a lot of it depends also on what your goal is. Like, people have big healing goals. Like, again, when we get to a mental health disorder or a skin disorder or something, like, I'll never forget, I've loved probiotic foods for so long. I was a regular and still am user of kefir, kombucha, and cultured vegetables. And then all of a sudden I got like this perioral dermatitis, like kind of rash around my mouth. It's more common in like women that have half ethnicities, right? Like, so my mom is half Filipino. I'm half Filipino. My mom was born in the Philippines, and my probiotics weren't kind of kicking it. So I looked into the different strains and I found a supplement that had a specific targeted strain. And sure enough, I didn't want to get on an antibiotic, which is what my dermatologist was recommending. I'm like, I'm not going to destroy my gut that I've been working so hard on. So I increased it with a probiotic supplement strain. And within like 2 weeks, it was wiped away, and it has never come back. And I haven't even gone back to that specific strain, but I know now that I introduced that into my gut, it's there, and I'm keeping it alive with probiotics or prebiotics, right? The fiber in there. So again, it's not a yes or no easy, but there are ways. If you're just starting out, start with one or the other. But if you have a higher healing goal, or you want more clarity, or you're plateaued, try them both, right? There's no harm in that. And your tummy will tell you, right? I know that while we're on this topic of foods, and probiotics. I never forget the first time I gave my mother-in-law a jar of kefir. It was raspberry kefir. Did I tell this story yet?
No.
And she was so sweet. She's like, "Oh, thank you so much." I mean, this was a decade ago. I was just like, listen to this, how cool this probiotic food's going to help your tummy and all this stuff. And she was so cute. The next day she called and she's like, no, 2 days later she called and she's like, "Tanna, thank you so much for sharing your kefir. But I think the jar you gave me was a little bit rotten because it kind of gave me a little bit of a tummy ache and I had to go to the bathroom a lot, right? For lack of being too explicitly into the description. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a good thing. That's a Herxheimer reaction, which means
That's
your body's
what we're
actually,
wanting.
yes, we're purging and getting rid of all those toxins and things like that. So again, sometimes if you're going to try both a supplement, and it happens more with the food than it does a supplement, but it also will happen with a good, strong strain of a probiotic. So even in our probiotic supplement, we're like, it's okay, just ease into it a little bit. If you feel a tiny bit of discomfort, know that that's a really good thing. We are purging, we are detoxing and getting rid of all of the bad bacteria. And bad bacteria feeds off of carbs and sugar. So sometimes when you crave carbs and sugar, it's just bad bacteria trying to dictate. But as you little by little kind of clean those out, your tummy might get a little rumbly, right? But it's also okay. If it persists for many, many weeks, then yeah, we'll talk about it. But initially, as you're starting some of these routes, it's going to be expected and it's going to be anticipated. And we're really happy about that. So anyways, that was a kind of a roundabout way, but
That's
the truth
good, though.
about that answer. Yeah.
Well, tangent.
Yeah.
Your story triggered this.
Oh.
I had a bad habit for years and years. I loved a bowl of cereal at night.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
It was just like a
What was it?
habit.
Frosted Flakes, Captain Crunch, Robbie, what was
probably
it?
all of the above. I don't know.
Honeycomb.
Some were healthier,
Yeah.
some were not so healthy, but it was just like it was just routine.
Yeah,
And I just
yeah.
did it. But since being more intentional on some of
Mhm.
the supplementation and fermented foods and stuff, my cravings at night
Yeah.
gone.
Isn't
Like I
that
don't have it
amazing?
anymore.
Oh, yeah. And I bet even a little bit of kefir, when I would have those at night, I would just open the jar in the fridge and just drink it. You probably don't tell my other kids that, but I just drink it right out of the jar. And within 5 minutes, those sugar cravings are gone. So it's so true. Your bacteria dictates so much of your actions and how you feel and what you crave and things like that. So I love that. You're proof in the pudding right there.
I know. Okay, so another one you mentioned earlier in our conversation about serotonin
Oh,
and
yeah.
that 90% of our serotonin resides in our gut. Is that true?
That is true. And I have looked that up over 100 times just to make sure that that's really true. It ranges anywhere from 90 to 95 is what I found. And then right after that is the statistic that 70% of your immune system. So those two numbers are locked in my mind. 90%, those are massive. When you're talking in the health and fitness industry, we're looking at 1% body fat, right? Like a few pounds of muscle, wherever it is, or changes in levels, they're small percentages. So to understand the massive amount of serotonin that is controlled by the gut microbiome, we don't want to ignore that. Let's really try to embrace that fact and enhance that and really start to watch for it. So yes, that is a fact.
That one is so fascinating to me because again, it just the magnitude of the number.
Yeah, totally.
It's if you're thinking about stress and anxiety, or your child is dealing with that, and you're trying to help them feel calm.
Yeah.
Rather than starting with medicine, like let's
Totally.
think about what are some serotonin
Yep.
producing and stimulating foods and other things we can try
So true.
to see if it helps with sleep and calm and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's
Cool.
a good question.
Okay. If I have a gut issue, let's see. If I have a gut issue, I will notice digestive symptoms like indigestion, etc.
You
Or
know
are there
what?
other gut issues that you can have without noticing that?
You can have other gut issues. A lot of the times, to answer that again, sometimes people get so used to being bloated, they don't understand it's a symptom. So most likely that will be the symptom is digestion. But actually there's a lot of times where just anxiety is crazy and you don't have digestive issues, right? Again, in some of these younger kids that I was just witnessing, and the mood swings would happen. So it is fact or fiction. What was the question? It's not true that you will always see digestive issues if your gut microbiome is
You
suffering
could be
a little bit.
experiencing symptoms that maybe are more mental health type
Exactly.
symptoms
Yes.
rather than just the bloating and things that we typically associate with a gut issue.
Yes, for sure.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned some cool stories before on, people who've made positive changes in their life with some of these different interventions, whether dietary or supplementation. But any other stories that come to mind of things that, whether it's you personally or anybody else, a teenager, somebody that you've seen that is particularly in the realm of mood and emotion, mental health, made positive changes with diet and supplementation?
Robbie, I see it every single week. I mean, I could pinpoint any name. Like if I have a list of computer names on my clients, I could pinpoint any one. And if that person had tried something, I know they felt a difference. But I think the ones that are the most important to me currently are the ones within my own home, because I see the mood swings that happen with the 4 girls. And so I also can see that when they are up and taking care of their gut microbiome, like summertime's a little tricky. I see the crumble boxes come in at 11 o'clock at night, or I see the bag of chips that came from the 7-Eleven run, right? And I can sense that in our home, sometimes emotions and moods swings are big. They're much bigger. But when we kind of get in a mode of like really trying to have more fruits and vegetables and apply, you know, like a good supplement when they can, making sure that they're putting a little bit of kefir into their smoothie every day, right? A little sip of kombucha mixed with some grape juice. That for me right there is firsthand eyewitness on a day-to-day level that within a couple of weeks, you can completely shift a mood or what you think might be, you know, just a bad stage of teenage years or whatever. It can be so drastically modified by some of these gut-friendly, gut-helpful foods and routines, and sleep and things like that too, of course. But I mean, right in front of me, that's probably the biggest testament of all is these kids that I live with, and my own husband, and like I said, like my best friends and people all around me, my own environment. I feel like when I remember thinking I wanted to start to share this, I remember thinking it's not going to matter if you tell 2,000 people, but the people closest to you don't even know. So I remember really having an intentional, like one by one, let's see who closest to me we can start to improve their own life and their own gut. And I've seen it in nieces and nephews and again, friends and family. So I don't know if that's one particular story, but one of the most meaningful ones to me for sure.
When we did, I go back to our addiction recovery program a lot, just because it was such a laboratory of, not in a way that they were testing people, but we could see the impact of things. And I just remember these are all adult men, working professionals, busy. Yeah. Most of them didn't have great eating habits. You can imagine they're battling stress of work and family and an addiction.
Income. An addiction. Yeah.
Specifically the addiction that just throws off so many things. But we had them change, not entirely to a plant-based diet, but mostly. So talk about like prebiotic infusion of just new stuff.
Yeah.
And they would be with us for 30 days and then we'd support them for a year after they left. But it was amazing to watch, even in that 30-day window, changing their diet, how much more energy and control over their emotions they had, how much less stress they felt. Yeah. And it's hard to pinpoint and say it was just because of the prebiotics, because we did amino acid therapy and other things. But man, I have a big testimony of this principle that through addressing the gut microbiome, you can impact mood and emotion
so much
in a huge way.
There's so many studies that have been done around that. I was even just looking one, I don't need to reference it, but like even this one in 2017, this one was really important because it was actually a study that was focused on supporting the modification of lifestyle in lowered emotional states. And even then they're just like the diet matters. Mediterranean diet, more plants, more omega-3s, it matters. And so you will find a plethora of studies that support the exact thing that you're saying. So I think it's the magic of the sun and the power of the earth that really make those changes.
So maybe can we end with 2 final questions?
Yeah.
So first one is just, as you work with people, teaching in group settings or individually, what are typically the biggest obstacles as people are learning this information and they're feeling inspired? They want to now do this. What are some of the biggest obstacles people face in trying to make positive changes in this area?
2 things come to mind when you ask that. One we've already talked about was consistency, but I think sometimes we underestimate the bombardment, if that's even a word, the bombarding environment of just too much information, and they feel that it's overwhelming. So I cannot stress enough the simplicity of fruits and vegetables. Nutrition 101. Here we go back again. Just try. And if you're not ready to try it yet, and you're like, well, I don't really like this, and these make me gassy, and broccoli is gross, or whatever it is, you're going to have an excuse for it if you really don't want to eat it. So if you're not ready to try it, then maybe take a week and just be more mindful and just pay attention to what you're eating. And even if it takes writing it down, right? I think sometimes too much information can feel overwhelming. And so they're like, well, if I can't get the right strain or the best quality one, then it's not going to be worth it. So first and foremost is just to simplify your plan of attack, right? Simplify what you want to start with. And then second of all, I think the biggest obstacle in my work and the work that I see with the people that I love and the clients that come is just that consistency. They think it's either all or nothing, on or off, but it's not. Like it really is just what can you do that day that we talk about in the workshop, like 1% better every day. And that's such a minimal effort. So I think consistency for sure is probably the hardest thing that people come across. They get really excited, right? And then they have a great couple weeks and then maybe they go on a trip, or maybe they have a really bad day, or maybe works hard, or maybe something financially happened. And then they kind of think like, oh, I'll do that later. But plowing through some of those harder times and the times when it becomes the most difficult are the times when it's going to actually mean the most. I think that's true on an emotional standpoint for us as spiritual beings and also, physical beings, that when we can kind of push through and stay consistent, not perfect, right? Just consistent, like just try again the next day, or maybe 2 days later, maybe after a nap and a bite of cake, whatever it needs to be, right? Like it's okay. Just pick up and keep going. Consistency will win the game every time.
I love that. And as you're talking, I'm picturing a dial versus a switch. It's not like an on-off switch. Like I'm either doing great or not. It's like, maybe I just just a little bit less.
Temperature needs to come down a little bit.
Or temperature needs to turn back up, but it's not,
Uh-huh.
There's something about identity where it's like, if you have the on off, like I'm all in or not mindset, you sometimes miss the power of, I'm doing good. I ate cake, but you know what? I'm doing great in some other areas. So I just got to turn it back up a tiny bit.
Exactly. I love that analogy. It's so true. It's exactly how it works.
Okay. So as we conclude, one kind of parting word of wisdom, if you will.
Okay.
So, it's ideas in action. People are listening. They're feeling inspired. What's your one piece of advice for what to do, how to start, what to do with this conversation?
Gosh. I probably sound like a repetitive, I don't know, robot or something. But I think if you really are serious about just finding better health, better gut microbiome, one of the things that I always love is kind of just envision what you're going to do with that health, right? Like rather than just think you're going to reach to the goal and get there and then you're going to find happiness. When like, okay, when I get a little bit more energy, I want to do something with that energy, right? Like I want to make a bigger contribution to my family or to my own mental health or to my own physical health, right? Like sometimes for me, it's more than just achieving health. It's actually taking it, because we'll all achieve health at different levels. So again, I hope this makes sense and you can help me articulate this if you can kind of see where I'm trying to go. But sometimes I think we all want a purpose. We all want something bigger than ourselves. And so to understand that we will only be bigger based off of how well we care for kind of the gifts and the talents and the bodies and the things that we've been given. So for me, sometimes I'm like, we've listened to all this, we've learned it, I've been studying and learning it, but what do I want to do with that? Do I want to just be a good influence on my family? And if it's one person or one community or one, I don't know, a job, whatever it is that is really important to you, it's going to be different. I always think like, how can I amplify one of my gifts by being healthier and stronger? That for me is motivation to take care of my gut microbiome, to be able to play with my grandkids, to be able to play and travel or whatever it is. So again, I don't know that it's directly related to like a one tactical thing. We've talked about eating fruits and vegetables. We talked about water and probiotics and sleep. Actually, we didn't talk about water very much, but it's critical.
We should have.
Right?
We'll do that again in the future.
Put that in there, right? But sleep and some of those things, those are all very important. But then to not miss the mark of why they're so important, because it creates a bigger capacity in us to hold more light and to do better with the life that we've been given. And I hope that's motivation enough, because again, every single person listening to this right now is full of gifts and talents and people that love them and that they love. And so to kind of see it as like this movement rather than just like climbing the top of a mountain, which it will feel like, but then once you get to the top, who are you going to share the view with, right? Yeah. Like, what can we do with that? So I don't know, that's directly related to health, but it really is like,
I am so passionate about this topic because it has a lot to do with vision and identity.
So
and
true.
To the extent that we spend time really cultivating a deeper, more purposeful, meaning-centered vision for what we want our life to be and why our life matters and why it matters to other people, then stuff like this just becomes a vehicle for achieving something you have a strong desire to achieve, and we're more motivated to do it.
Exactly. Took the words much better said like that.
And I love the other thing that I'm feeling prompted to talk about just as we conclude for maybe 2 minutes, as you said that. I think a lot of people I know I have at times, maybe people listening, they feel like when they're starting to get into trying some of these things, like they're an imposter a little bit. Like, I'm not really a healthy person, and not really smart enough to be doing this. And I kind of feel like I'm not really part of that healthy crowd. But like in that imposter kind of view of yourself can keep you from really seeing yourself as somebody who is healthy and strong. And these are habits that you are cultivating, and they're going to be part of your life. And that concept of identity and how we see ourselves has a lot of power as we now embark upon this journey of more health through nutrition.
So well said, Robbie. That is exactly, I think, what it's for. I think that's why we care for our bodies now and here. It's what the earth time was given to us for. So we can actually take that and develop it and magnify it, right? If you can. And this is why we are studying about this. This is why we're talking about it, so that we can enhance even a greater part of ourselves that we don't even know maybe exists. And so maybe we're all imposters at this point, right? We're all just kind of fake it till you make it. Like we're just going to go out there and we're going to try it. But if we never try, then we'd never know.
Right.
And I think that I love what you're saying, because it makes all of us feel like we're on equal playing ground, right? We all had to start somewhere. Yeah. Like there was the first time I ever tried. I mean, I'll never forget the first time I tried to make kefir. I had a YouTube video, I had a paper of notes, and I was like, play. Okay, move something, pause. Okay, wait, I got to go back. I don't even know what I'm doing. And the overwhelm got to the point where I could have just given up, but I just knew that there was something more to it. And so again, I think we're all just kind of on that exact same path of like, hey, let's just try it. What do we have to lose? Yeah. We're learning together.
And again, it's not an all or nothing thing.
It's that dial you talked about. Yeah. I love that.
I love this. There's so much good in this conversation. And I hope that there's just a nugget or two that somebody takes
hopefully
away.
Someone understood some of my ramblings.
It's so valuable. So many good things. As people do hear this conversation, we are offering this supplement product, Core 7. It's going to be launching soon. You can pre-order it now with the promo code podcast for a discount. And as people purchase, you'll be able to have more interactions with team members, monthly drop-in calls and access to different workshops and things. We hope that it creates a community where people can start to, again, go on this journey of health together with really good products, but more importantly, with really good people.
Yeah. So it's a community of like-minded people that are just on a quest to just improve in any little way we can. So
Tanna, thank you for taking time to have this conversation, for being here. You're such an important part of this whole thing that we're doing, and just grateful for your willingness to share and be a light.
It's an honor. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here.
Okay. Join us again for another episode, and we hope to see you soon.
Okay. Thanks.
Good morning. For the first day in a long time, don't feel like watching from the sidelines.